Mew2King, one of the greatest Smash players to ever pick up a controller, was initially looked down on as a competitor, but proved everyone wrong, becoming one of the best to ever play the game, being one of the 5 gods of Smash alongside Armada, Mango, PPMD, and Hungrybox. He was one of the best players in the world and the first one of the 5 to establish himself as a top player. While he's very well known for his dominance in multiple Smash titles, how good was he actually? Jason Mew2King Zimmerman's journey starts in his hometown Cinnamon, New Jersey during 2005. He started playing Melee competitively at this time, though he didn't have any noteworthy events. His character of choice was Fox McCloud, becoming iconic with his green sweater and red boots. Mew2King was noted at this point to not be very proficient against actual players. He didn't adapt very well and couldn't figure out how to deal with mind games. That's why he's widely called the Robot. M2K put himself on the map in 2006 with various high placements and wins against the best players at the time. While he didn't win any events, with the closest being Melee FC6 where he placed second, he was a constant presence in the top 8 in every major tournament. He was very nearly there, he just needed that push. People in the scene saw Mew2King as different and didn't give him much respect as a player, but with how dedicated he was to the game, he spent thousands of hours learning how the game works in frame data. There wasn't anything he didn't know about Melee, and it started translating into his competitive play, very quickly rising the ranks. 2007 rolled around and it was a good year for Mew2King, with him winning several events and showcasing his new character, Marth. M2K started by winning his first ever tournament at Cataclysm 3. He won several more such as EVO 2007 West and East, Melee FC Diamond, and Super Champ Combo, plus a few more. While he had a shockingly bad EVO World 2007 where he placed 9th, he managed to place top 4 in every other major he entered. With his great record against the other top players, consistent high placements, and several tournament wins, Mew2King claimed the #1 ranking in the world. 2007 was for many people M2K's best year ever. His dominance cannot be understated. He completely overshadowed Ken's Marth and reached new heights with the character. He also worked heavily on the frame data for every single character. Many players, including both top and casuals alike, still use the frame data that Mew2King compiled all those years ago to this day. His contributions to the game are practically unmatched from a technical standpoint. While it had been seen sparingly, Mew2King's Sheik was very prominent this year. Oh yeah, not only did his Marth and Fox dominate, but he added in a Sheik to the mix. He was undoubtedly the best player in the world in 2007, but something crazier was coming. It's now 2008, and M2K started off winning Smashpocalypse 3, but fell to Mango shortly after at Pound 3. Mew2King was unable to deal with Jigglypuff and resorted to using his 3 main characters, and when all of them failed, he even resorted to a Jigglypuff Ditto. Not letting the loss deter him, Mew2King won every other tournament he entered this year. 8 tournaments in a row he won. Mew2King was unstoppable, and the first out of the 5 gods to be considered one, having the next rule of Smash after Ken. 2008 wasn't fantastic for Melee as Brawl had come and slowly taken over. While we're focusing on his Melee career, it's worth mentioning that Mew2King was also considered the best Brawl player at the time, holding joint first in Melee and Brawl. Some started to call M2K the Smash Master due to his proficiency in all Smash games. His Sheik had also been established as one of his mains and even started a trend where maining Fox, Sheik, and Marth was referred to as being a Mew2King main. His punish game was also extremely dangerous at this point, where many considered getting grabbed by him to be death. However, this trait was more or less exclusive to fast fallers, as historically, with the exception of the Marth Ditto, Mew2King hasn't fared as well against floaties compared to heavier characters. Jason's mindset wasn't very great, and it showed against Mango at Pound 3. It wasn't very apparent as he beat people very comfortably most of the time, but when upsets were happening, there was practically no chance for a comeback. M2K himself addressed it in the documentary, citing depression issues, but he was still a very formidable and seemingly invincible opponent at times. Many considered his reign from 2007 to 2008 to be the peak of his dominance. 2009 began and Melee still wasn't doing so well. Attendance was very low compared to previous years, and it seemed like the scene was done for. This all changed at the very aptly named revival of Melee tournament. Some were calling this the last Melee bracket. Anyone who was anyone came to this tournament, and Mew2King placed second, losing to Mango. But more than just his placing was what was important at this tournament. Mew2King had one of the best comebacks in Melee history. Jason was known to always give up and stop trying when he was down, but this time he didn't, with the famous match 4 versus the Shizwiz happening in losers finals. It was uploaded to YouTube after the tournament, getting over 1 million views to this day, keeping the Melee scene alive, putting it back on the map. 2009 was also the year where Mew2King lost his crown. He only won 2 tournaments, being Herb 2 and the Tunes. While he placed highly at most events, placing in the top 3 with the exception of Genesis where he got 5th, his dominance had ended. This was reflected as well in his 4th place rank for the year. And while 2009 wasn't the best for Mew2King, he still remained one of the best players. He also retained his #1 rank in Brawl and was more focused on it than Melee, as Brawl seemed like the future. With of course its better graphics and fantastic mechanics like this. A large reason why his dominance wasn't kept this year was the rise of 3 new Melee gods, Armada, Mango, and Hungrybox. They all played floaties, Mango being Puff at the time, which Mew2King was notably worse against compared to fast fallers. 2010 was a weak year for Mew2King with his continued focus on Brawl. He only entered 6 tournaments, and though he won 3, they were on the smaller end. He placed 5th at Pound 4, 3rd at Apex 2010, and nearly won ROM 3, narrowly losing to the last of the 5 gods to ascend to godhood, Dr. Pee. His wins were tourney play number 5, CGC at S. What? Guys, get the names together for these tournaments, my god. But he also won Good Shit German. M2K was beginning to fall off compared to previous years due to a number of factors. His split focus into 2 Smash games made it hard for him to live up to his full Melee potential. The rise of the 5 gods also made his divided focus a bigger issue, as he couldn't consistently defeat 4 players that were equally as skilled with only half the focus. Despite these setbacks, however, Mew2King was still a top 5 player and retained his #4 ranking in the world. 2011 was very similar to the previous years for Mew2King. His attendance did improve slightly with 8 events. His continued focus on Brawl wasn't doing him any Melee favors, and he was seen as the weakest of the 5 gods around this time. He failed to win any major tournament, with his best win being a smaller event known as Sudden Death 4 over Mango. He performed very well in doubles this year, being the first year where he won multiple events. He fell in the rankings being number 5, the lowest of the 5 gods. Mew2King was slowly falling behind the fellow gods, and while he once retained his #1 rank in Brawl, his Melee one had suffered even more. His attention had switched to Sheik and Marth more, with Fox now being seen as a secondary character. Sheik and Marth demanded less precision than Fox, and it's presumably why Mew2King opted for them instead. With his attention split between 2 games, easier to play and less tech-demanding mains were favorable for his position. M2K saw an incredible resurgence in his tournament attendance in 2012. While he forfeited at Apex 2012, he still placed within the top 4 at every tournament he entered. While he won many smaller events, a major continued to elude him. His closest was Zenith 2012, where he lost a heartbreaking Game 10 versus Dr. Pee. Although he did lose the tournament, he did hit one, if not the greatest Marth combo ever.
Oh my god. Good roll. He got the knockdown. Up throw. Is he gonna? He got it. Tetris. Up air. Up air. Up air. For that.
He continued to dominate in doubles as well, achieving a nearly flawless record, only losing 1 event the whole year. 2012 was a great year for M2K, not in placements per se, but with attendance. He was finally focusing on Melee, much to the delight of the fans. Brawl was a less of a priority this year for him, and he lost his #1 rank, falling to number 8 in the world. What awaited people next year was something special. 2013 began with Apex 2013, and Mew2King fell short. While he won smaller scale tournaments, a major win was something he still needed. With EVO hosting Melee, Mew2King had shifted his focus more on it at this point due to the prestigiousness of the tournament. He fell short at EVO, placing 5th, and after, he went on a rampage, winning 8 tournaments in a row, and finally winning another major again, the Big House 3. Other large events he won include Pound 5.5, ROM 6, and Kings of Cali 3. This insane run is often called the return of the long by fans. Mew2King had proven that he wasn't the weakest god and ended the year ranked number 3 in the world. Out of the 18 tournaments he entered in doubles, Mew2King won 17 of them. Seriously, I don't think any doubles resume comes close to this guy, especially at the time. Relax, UGS fans. I made an Armada video last time, so go check that out if you haven't already. Even while focusing on Melee, this guy even won back his #1 rank in Brawl. 2013 was the resurgence that Mew2King needed. He was finally able to win another major and managed to consistently defeat his fellow gods in the second half of the year. He also showcased great versatility in doubles, teaming with several different teammates and winning a huge amount of tournaments. Coming off of a high note from 2013, Mew2King's streak snapped by PPMD at Apex 2014. Notably, M2K wasn't free to counter PP's Falco to FD anymore, as PP had developed his own Marth. M2K managed to place within the top 5 of every major this year, but failed to win any, and had a shocking tournament at Do You Fox with it, placing 13th. He was able to finally beat Armada for the first time this year, completing a win against every god. He was able to win some decently big tournaments, many of them even had another god present, but was still unable to win any majors this year. Doubles is the same story as the previous years, where Mew2King won almost every event, with one small exception. While he teamed with many different players, he seemed to have found a consistent teammate in Armada. They were known as Team Empire, Arcadia, or EMP due to being under the same sponsor. 2015 didn't start off on a great note for Mew2King, as he lost Paragon 2015 to Hungrybox in what many consider the worst grand finals of all time, getting 4-stock twice. He also placed poorly at Apex 2015, although in all fairness, he wasn't feeling all that great the whole weekend. But he lost to Leffen for the first time, allowing the Swede to defeat all 5 of the gods. He was also supposed to compete at MVG Sandstorm, but dropped out of the main bracket due to not liking his seed. I was actually supposed to be his round 1 opponent back in 2015 at my first major before switching my tag to my first name. What up, Jason? I'm up 1-0 lifetime on you, dog. I knew you were scared of me. One of the 5 gods, my ass. In all seriousness though, Mew2King didn't win a major this year, but still won several smaller events over notable players such as Plup, Axe, and Westballs. His best event this year was PAX Prime 2015, where he 6-0'd the Godslayer Leffen, who many considered to be a god as well and possibly the #1 player in the world at the time. Another event worth mentioning for Mew2King was EVO 2015, but for different reasons. Prior to this point, M2K had been known to suffer from hand pain for some time, but it got worse to the point where the pain was too much and he missed out on the most prestigious tournament of the year. He also struggled with ice climbers, as his counterpicking led him to using Peach against them. Even though his Peach is far below his other 3 characters, Peach has a better matchup against Ices by far, and his Peach is historically seen with mixed results versus Ices, but still decided to pick the character up for that matchup. Doubles was also something, as 2 teams had finally begun to give him trouble. Pewfat and Leffen and MacD got the better of him a few times this year. Regardless, he still won more events in doubles than anyone. It's worth noting that Mew2King did try his hand at both Smash 4 and later on Ultimate, but he was nowhere near the levels he had achieved in Melee and Brawl. Though he was considered the 69th best Smash 4 player of all time with his Cloud, he was absolutely really good, but nowhere near winning major tournaments. 2016 started off poorly, with him missing out on Genesis top 8 due to wobbling. Seriously, what is this character, man? The same as the years prior, while Mew2King won several smaller events over some of the top players, a major with most of the gods present still eluded him since the Big House 3, but he finally broke that curse, winning Shine 2016 over Hungrybox and Mango plus SFAT. SFAT was on a roll and would often beat HBox and Mango, but Mew2King always stood in his way. He also performed better against Armada this year, taking a few sets and even 3-0ing him at Summit 2. He placed very well with exceptions of Gommel and Battle of the 5 Gods, where he placed 9th and 7th respectively. He continued to struggle with wobbling at this time, although he'd begun to use his Marth over his Peach. He was still phenomenal in doubles, however, once again winning most events he entered. You may be noticing a pattern here where Mew2King performs well overall but hardly wins majors. 2017 is more of the same, and while he's able to win the smaller scale events over individual gods, the majors with most of them present have been beyond him. Wobbling also still continued to trouble him, notably at Battle of BC, where Chudat defeated him. Those are some dark times, man. He faltered a bit in doubles as well, no longer winning almost every event. 2018 was very similar to previous years, but his average placing suffered. He had several placements outside of top 8 and was seen as the weakest of the gods. Especially with PP being out of the picture due to his retirement, Mew2King was the lowest of the 4 now. We can ignore all of that because Mew2King finally took home a major with several gods present since Shine 2016. He defeated his demon Armada, Leffen, and the Rising Star Zane, plus Armada again to win Smash Summit 6. Mew2King himself was in disbelief and was beyond happy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, is that it? That is it. That is it. Mew2King wins Smash Summit. Look at him. Look at him.
He actually can't believe it.
He can't believe it. He said I won. Mew2King. Oh my God. This is the best pop-up we've ever seen.
Mew2King didn't even know he won at the time, one of the most wholesome moments in Smash. He also was back on top in doubles, winning more events than anyone else. 2019 was very bad for Mew2King, and his attendance dramatically dropped compared to his previous years, with only 4 events, no wins, and getting wobbled for 33rd at Genesis 6. He did enter doubles more than singles, and like previous years, won most events. 2020 was also not great, as he only attended 2 events. A smaller tournament, Tampa Never Sleeps 8, which he won, and Genesis 7, where he placed a lowly 13th. He did win Genesis 7 doubles though, showing that no matter what, he's still one of the very best doubles players. 2021 and 2022 were the last years the King was active. He only had 4 events, and while he won 2, the only major he competed in, he did poorly. He placed 17th at the Smash World Tour in 2021. His other events were, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one, and Vivila La Smash, of which he won both. His last event was DreamHack Atlanta 2022, placing 3rd after being the 6th seed. This would be the last time we saw the King play competitively with no return in sight. He still plays Smash to this day, and even Melee, but only on a stream. Will we have him return to competition? Who knows? Now, how good was Mew2King actually? While he did have some shortcomings, such as having a negative record against every god and being the only god not to win a major with all 5 gods present, Mew2King was amazing. We haven't really seen anyone look as imposing as Mew2King's Marth against space animals on FD, not even Zayn. There was a reason he was the last god left undefeated. He was a major thorn for spacies just outside of the gods, such as SFAT, Ice, and Westballs, to name a few. He stayed at the top level for an incredible amount of time and was even joint number 1 in 2 separate Smash titles. He was also able to adapt, having more respectable records against Hungrybox and Armada in the later stages of his career, and the sets he lost were still very close. He's considered the GOAT of Smash overall due to being practically the only player to be able to successfully play all of them at a high level. He even won 2 Smash Masters, in which players play 1 game in every available Smash title. Mew2King is the Smash Master. The real question is, where do you guys put Mew2King in the all-time category? Was he your favorite player? Which of his nearly infinite combos is your favorite? Don't forget to check out the Patreon where you can support me. Thank you so much for watching.